Wow, that was immediate.
You were scary.
I was scary. I'm sorry. I'm going to start this morning with a reading from the Australian Christian. 1920. This is by I assume it's a Mr. P.R. Baker. This is an article he's written. I intend dealing with this subject, and the title of the article is The Church and the Masses. I intend dealing with this subject under three headings. Firstly, the fact that the church has lost its hold upon the masses. This is 1920. Secondly, the causes. And thirdly, the cure. And the cause, the gifted, educated preacher, the splendidly organised and trained choir, the magnificent pipe organ, and the paid singers have no special attraction to the man on the street. So that was the cause of the church collapsing in 1920. Well, welcome everybody to worship. It's too long. It's just too long to go through. Yeah. But.
So, John, can you just. I've got 3 copies of these. They came from Ron's father, Les, who used to do tent missions.
Yep.
He's now got 1920, 1921, 1922, and it's every copy of the Christian. And they're out there, and we don't want them anymore.
We never did, actually.
But I think I've got yours too.
Sorry?
But if anyone wants them, they're out there to take.
Right. So don't rush.
Bob wants them.
Looks like. Oh, Ron Barber.
Well, can I welcome the Bruces? Yeah, welcome back. Yeah, for a short period of time. And Peter. Lovely to have you here, Peter. A very sprightly 91-year-old. Look at him. Yep. And Jude, beautiful colour. Brown. Yeah.
You can't see it all, I had to cover it up.
Oh. And we've got Holly and Miller here. So welcome, Holly and Miller. Yep. Brian's children. And what more can you say? Anyone else? No. So as we start today, I would like to acknowledge the traditional owners of the land on which we are meeting today, the Wurundjeri people of the Kulin Nation, and pay my respects to their elders past, present and emerging. Today we do church on land that was stolen and never ceded. And our welcoming and affirming statement. Hartwell is a fully affirming community and fully committed to being a safe place for all people who are connected to the community, regardless of gender, sexuality, family background, economic situation, and regardless of how old you are, where you come from, what abilities you have, what languages you speak, what religion, spiritual path, tradition, and ethical conviction. Everyone is welcome here, and we want everyone to feel safe here. So I thought we'd start. So yesterday we had the quiet day at Hartwell, at Highfield Road, and we had 13 people, I think. It was just a really interesting day and a lovely space at Hartwell. It's really good. Hello, Ash. And morning. I just saw you sneak in there. Yeah. No, we don't check the box at the end of the service. Those on time, those late. So we're going to start with a meditation, and it's a meditation about our bodies, and this follows on from yesterday's quiet day. The body's such an important part of our spirituality. We think it's about our heads, and it's actually much more about our bodies. So just take a moment to just settle in where you are. Just get comfortable in your seat. You may want to close your eyes or keep them open. Just allow your shoulders to soften. Take a full breath in and a long breath out. Begin by bringing your attention into your body. Notice the feeling of the weight of your body on the chair or the floor, wherever you are. And as you breathe, notice how your chest and abdomen expand to allow the airs to enter your lung. What sensations are you aware of? And as you exhale, bring awareness to the stillness. And notice the sense of relaxing more deeply. Now just notice what is happening in your body. Is there something taking your attention? A twinge in a muscle? Some uncomfortableness? Something that has not left you this morning? Just spend some time with what you're noticing. And if you're not noticing anything, just focus on your breathing. And as you sit with what you are noticing, be present with it without any expectations. And now say hello to what you are noticing. Just say hello and notice if anything changes. And if something does change, just gently be with that. And when you are ready, you might come back into the room. Our theme this morning is, it's about Palm Sunday and non-violence. Does anyone notice anything about Palm Sunday?
It's not this week.
Correct. So someone made a mistake on the church calendar, and as a very forgiving organisation, we like to acknowledge mistakes and thank you. Because this is a church that we don't really care too much about when you do stuff, just get it done. But our theme is more today about non-violence. And Yeah, it's been an interesting week, hasn't it? I haven't been thinking nice things about Donald Trump lately. I've been surprised how unsettled and angry I have been, and that's not a good place for me. Interestingly enough, I noticed my knee-jerk response was to violence. We need to get rid of this guy no matter what. And that really surprised me. And so it's really challenged me, this whole issue. Mahatma Gandhi says these words about non-violence. Thanks, Bo. Non-violence is not a garment to be put on and off at will. Its seat is in the heart, and it must be an inseparable part of our very being. If love or non-violence be not the law of our being, the whole of my argument falls to pieces. Belief in non-violence is based on the assumption that human nature, in its essence, is one and therefore unfailingly responds to the advances of love. If one does not practice non-violence in one's personal relations with others and hopes to use it in bigger affairs, one is vastly mistaken. The other quote I wanted to bring with you this morning is from a guy called Mark Kalansky, and he talks about the difference between being a pacifist or pacifism and non-violence. And this was really interesting for me. Living a non-violent life is no easy task. It is not simply pacifism. It requires courageous love drawn from the very source of our being. Pacifism is passive, but non-violence is active. Pacifism is harmless and therefore easier to accept than non-violence, which is dangerous. When Jesus said that a victim should turn the other cheek, he was preaching pacifism. But when he said that an enemy should be won over through the power of love, he was preaching non-violence. So the interesting thing about both those readings this morning is the connection with love. And the challenge for me personally around this, and I think the challenge for a lot of us, is that whilst we can't control what's happening in the world, we actually can control how we respond ourselves. And I think that's one of the challenges for us. This issue of non-violence should challenge us all. And I know it challenges me, I know it challenged Brian. So let's see where he takes us today. It's a big issue and one that we're looking forward to hearing some more about. We're going to sing a song. Sorry? Oh, the candle, Andrew. Mate, I'm sorry. Yeah, we didn't light the candle. Thank you. Yeah. Sorry, mate.
Just got to hope the match works. Looks like a dead match.
We need a new box of matches. I reckon it's a striker. Oh, here we go.
Beautiful. Success.
Thank you.
Brother, sister, let me serve you. Let me be as Christ to you. Pray that I may have the grace to let you be my servant too. We are pilgrims on a journey and companions on the road. We are here to help each other walk the mile and bear the load. I will hold the Christ light for you 2 more verses, but anyway, that's all we've got. Let's sing. Shall we sing the first verse one more time? Sister, let me share you. Let me be as Christ to you. Pray that I may have the grace to let you be my servant too. We weren't meant to sing in harmony, obviously.
Good morning, everyone. This is Luke chapter 9, verse 28 to 40. Jesus comes to Jerusalem as king. After Jesus had said this, he went ahead, going on to Jerusalem. As he approached Bethphage and Bethany at the hill called Mount of Olives, he sent 2 of his disciples, saying to them, "Go to the village ahead of you, and as you enter it, you will find a colt tied there. No one has ever ridden it. Untie it and bring it here. If someone asks you, 'Why are you untying it?' say, 'The Lord needs it.'" Those who were sent ahead went and found it just as he had been told. As they were untying the colt, its owners asked them, "Why are you untying the colt?" They replied, "The Lord needs it." They brought it to Jesus, threw their cloaks on the colt and put Jesus on it. As he went along, people spread their cloaks on the ground. When he came near the place where the road goes down to the Mount of Olives, the whole crowd of disciples began joyfully to praise God in loud voices for all the miracles that they had seen. "Blessed is the King who comes in the name of the Lord, peace in heaven and glory in the highest." Some of the Pharisees in the crowd said to Jesus, "Teacher, rebuke your disciples." "I told you," he replied, "if they keep quiet, the stones will cry out."
Why are you looking at me so funnily, Holly? It's a big smile, like I'm about to screw up or something. Because I can, yeah. And I'm just noticing somebody else made a mistake as well. I wasn't the only one with the songs and the verses. I don't know who that was. It wasn't just me. Yeah, and it's great for you guys to see the first mistake I've ever made. Glad you were here for that. Palm Sunday will be drawn out over 2 Sundays over the next 2 weeks. And it's quite a political theme, Palm Sunday, at least for me in my interpretation and engagement with this period of the Christian calendar and what it entails. And then as I've reflected, what's coming over the next month is quite political. We have an election, I think, on the 3rd of May, is that right? And as a church, we've decided to endorse the Australian Cannabis Party, if you didn't know, taking an official position on that. And that's not true. That's going to get cut in a clip and get me in a bit of trouble. So it is, interestingly, a political time. Easter is both personal and political. And as the feminists remind us, that's really important, that the personal is political and those two things interact and engage with each other. And so the next few weeks will be interesting, and then we have on following Easter Sunday, for Good Friday, Easter Sunday, I appreciate a lot of people away. That following Sunday we've got Jenny Rose with us. So she's, some of you might know her, she's a lawyer, and she has been working with the World Council of Churches, and she's been in the West Bank for the last 3 months, and she'll be in Australia for a month, so she'll be coming that Sunday to share with us her experience. She's only allowed to share what she observed. She's not allowed to interpret, but she's happy to take questions. So that'll be interesting as well.
Interesting time that we're moving into around politics and those kinds of things. So often on Sundays when I share stuff, a lot of the stuff that I share, I agree with. I know that sounds funny. And a lot of the stuff that I share, I agree with, but probably don't, if I'm really honest, I battle to implement that in my life. I don't know if I'm the only person who battles with that. But very rarely do I share something that I don't necessarily agree with. And so today is a little bit of a challenge to myself, and we'll see where it lands for everybody else. And I think that's the beautiful thing about being part of a tradition sometimes. It forces you to engage with things that you wouldn't normally engage with, and you can feel slightly uncomfortable in that process. And I'll say more about my struggle with this particular issue at the end. So I'm only going to talk for 10 minutes because this is a wrestle, so I wanted to kind of embody that wrestle for us. Around your tables, we'll have about a 10-minute discussion allowing everybody to kind of wrestle with this kind of question for themselves as well. So if I fly through this in 10 minutes and try to do a kind of biblical and historical understanding of non-violence, forgive me if I go too quickly, but I'll do my best. So Palm Sunday, which is next week, but it is deeply connected for me in my reading of Palm Sunday, I should say. People read this differently, but my reading is deeply connected to the question of non-violence. Especially the way that Jesus enters Jerusalem. So a few key things that kind of pop out here when Jesus enters Jerusalem. Instead of riding into Jerusalem on a war horse, like a conquering general, like Pompey did when he entered Jerusalem, and what people would expect somebody or a king to come in, a conquering king, he enters on a donkey, which is a symbol of peace. So it's an incredible contrast to how some people were expecting the Messiah to come. The Messiah would come, would overthrow the Romans, messianic leader, and would, chuck out the Romans by force. But instead, Jesus enters on a donkey. Some in the crowds who were waving the palms might have been expecting a political revolution. Some of his disciples did. They were called zealots. Instead, Jesus seems to be embodying a different kind of kingship, one rooted in love, service, sacrifice, rather than violence. Again, the triumphal entry sets the stage for Jesus not responding to his arrest and embodying non-violence in other ways through his trial, crucifixion, without responding with aggression. Again, Jesus' actions on Palm Sunday align with his broader teachings on non-violence that we find in the Beatitudes and other spaces, such as turning the other cheek in Matthew 5:39, and loving one's enemies, Luke 6:27. Is that even possible? His entry into Jerusalem models again the kind of kingdom that Jesus envisions, the kind of dream for the world that God has, not built by force, but justice, mercy, and peace. Jesus' teaching on nonviolence, Matthew 5:43. I'll try to go through these quickly. You have heard that it was said, love your neighbor, hate your enemy, but I tell you, love your enemies and pray for those who persecute you, that you may be children of your Father in heaven. Extension of love to enemies, rejecting retaliation, embracing reconciliation. Turning the other cheek, it came up here already. If anyone slaps you on the right cheek, turn the other cheek also. That's Matthew 5:39. Now, that's actually not passive submission. Maybe disagree a little bit with that one. But it's a form of nonviolent resistance in some ways. In Jesus' time, a backhanded slap was an insult, not a physical attack meant to harm. So turning the other cheek forces the oppressor to see the person as an equal rather than a victim. The golden rule: in everything you do, do to others as you would have them do unto you. Matthew 5:6, blessed are the peacemakers, cheesemakers in other versions, for they will be called the children of God. The Life of Brian, I think, was that right? I haven't even watched it. Everybody tells me I should watch it, but anyway. Yeah, Fiona, you like that one? Yeah. I shouldn't watch it? Why are you laughing? What? Moving on. All right. So Jesus lifts up the cheesemakers and the peacemakers as what characterizes divinity. So peacemakers actively work towards reconciliation rather than conflict. Peter, Matthew 26, Peter tries to defend Jesus with violence at his arrest, and Jesus rebukes him, showing that his kingdom would not be advanced through force. And then again, and we'll look at this in a few weeks, Luke 23, Father, forgive them, for they do not know what they are doing. So there's a lot there. We know the story of nonviolence, and in history it's been picked up, this message of Jesus, this radical message that is so challenging to engage with. We've mentioned Gandhi already. One of Gandhi's most famous quotes is this. You might have heard it. He says, I like your Christ, but I do not like your Christians. Your Christians are so unlike your Christ. Yeah, pretty powerful. And the fact that we're laughing, I think we probably realize that he's onto something. Yep. He said, the example of Jesus, this is Gandhi as well, a direct quote, the example of Jesus' suffering is a factor in the composition of my undying faith in nonviolence. He goes on to say, Jesus was the most active resistor known perhaps to history. His was nonviolence par excellence. We know the strong influence that Gandhi had on Martin Luther King. In a pilgrimage to nonviolence in 1958, Martin Luther King said this, Gandhi was probably the first person in history to lift the love ethic of Jesus above mere interaction between individuals to a powerful and effective social force on a large scale. Jesus gave us the goals, Mahatma Gandhi provided the tactics, was Martin Luther King's way of saying it. And he called us soul force, was his image to kind of speak to this. Hinduism has a strong lineage of nonviolence. You might not think that when you see the current political party is in charge in India, and I should stop there. But a long tradition of nonviolence, and they have a beautiful word for it, which is called ahimsa, which Gandhi embodied as well. So it goes beyond kind of looking at physical violence. And so, John, I'm interested in some of the things that you said there. So there's a physical nonviolence where you don't harm others through actions. There's a verbal nonviolence, speaking in a way that does not hurt others. I don't often get that right. Sometimes I do. Mental nonviolence is also part of this Hindu idea of ahimsa. It's a letting go of hatred, anger, and violent thoughts where we can. And again, the first precept of Buddhism is do not kill or harm any living being. Challenging. Thich Nhat Hanh says nonviolence does not mean non-action, getting to your point, John, as well. Nonviolence means we act with love and compassion. When you begin to see that your enemy is suffering, says Thich Nhat Hanh, that is the beginning of insight. A little bit of a theoretical thing. I'll do this really quickly, and then I'll just say some personal comments. So in the Christian tradition, there's been a whole range of ways that people have tried to understand nonviolence and what that might mean. And I'll just give you the two main ones are nonviolence and pacifism, right? And there's that kind of absolute pacifism, which says violence is never justified, even in self-defense or in the face of war. Christians must always respond with love, forgiveness, and peaceful resistance. That's kind of an absolute pacifism. Then there's a conditional pacifism. Well, pacifism is the ideal. There may be rare circumstances where nonviolence must be balanced with the need to protect innocent life. or stop extreme evil, but only on rare exceptions. And then again, there's this a Christian activism or nonviolent activism, which involves nonviolent resistance to evil, such as actions of civil disobedience, where you get arrested. So we were when we were in Washington many moons ago. You guys remember 2019? We went to this fire drill. What was it called? I don't know. Fire drill Friday or whatever it was. And that's when you met. What's her name? Jane Fonda. We got a photo of Mila with Jane Fonda. And Martin Sheen, Jacqueline Phoenix, and we had them to ourselves. It was great. But they were doing a climate change thing, but they all got arrested. So they went up into the steps, and they all got arrested and carted away as part of their kind of civil disobedience around climate change. Then the just war theory. I'm sure many of us would have heard of that, and there's varieties of that. But kind of saying there's strict criteria in terms of which violence can be used, has to be a just cause, legitimate authority, with a goal to restoring peace, and must always be a last resort. And modern thinkers engaged with just war theory would want to add questions of proportionality to it. I wonder which issue that might raise. Just throwing that out there for fun. Sorry, I didn't have that in my notes. My own view, as I've wrestled with this, this has been the most troubling bits of Jesus' teaching that I've had to wrestle with in my life and still wrestle with in my life. I'm contributing a chapter to a book on process, philosophy, theology, around the world in crisis, or whatever. And it was about 2 years ago that, I think it's only coming out in a few months, but it was about 2 years ago. And virtually everybody in that book has a non-violent perspective except for me, where I argue that it's actually a reasonable thing to support, to give Ukraine military assistance. Right. Some people look at me nervously, all right? I'm just saying, so that's kind of where I sit on, have sat and, or navigated around. You can see I'm nervous talking about it. My influence growing up in South Africa was through Nelson Mandela, who was involved in armed resistance. Even after his 27 years in jail. Very influenced by forms of liberation theology and political theology. That said there were certain circumstances where you could use violence to bring about certain aims. And the World Council of Churches actually endorsed that position for a period of time under apartheid in 1969. When I think of nonviolence and pacifism, I also think of questions of domestic violence and how sometimes we ask the most vulnerable not to retaliate and respond. And that raises questions for me, too. So growing up in a reasonably violent country in South Africa, my dad had a gun that sometimes when there was things on, he would put in the car under the seat, depending on the context of where we were going. And my view of nonviolence was incredibly pragmatic. So in the house that we lived in, we had aside from burglar bars and a million other things, and snipers. No, we didn't have snipers. But we had laser beams, the beams across our windows, so anybody would try to get in, the beam would go off. And I remember the terror every time that would happen, and my kids were young at that point. So I slept with a cricket bat under my bed. I had every intention of using it, just to be really honest. So as I'm wrestling here with Jesus' teaching and some of these questions of nonviolence, I feel like I would do that for my kids, right? I'm not saying that's right. I'm just naming my challenge around that space. So what I'd love for us to do is wrestle with that together around our tables, if you feel comfortable doing that. So what I mean by that is, how do you see Jesus' teaching around nonviolence? And Gandhi and Thich Nhat Hanh and Martin Luther King. Where do you sit on that? Or perhaps you have a different view on one like Mandela or other forms. Where do you sit on the just war theory? Do you think that's legitimate as a Christian? And some of us might not be Christians yet too. That's totally cool. What's your wrestle with that? So you don't have to, well, let me give you permission. You don't have to agree with Jesus' teaching, right, in this space. So feel comfortable to name your view in any way that you feel around the tables. We can have different views on this, and that's okay. So just as you talk around the table, what I would say, and I know we're all adults and we're pretty generous with each other, but as we discuss, let's be kind to each other, give people opportunity to speak around the table. If somebody says something you disagree with, don't punch them, depending on your stance on non-violence. But again, just a sense of how do we feel about the strong impulse in religious and spiritual traditions, and this is the thing, and I didn't have time to get into this, to non-violence and to the tendency towards non-violence, but also the tendency within religions to extreme violence as well. And so where do you sit on the landscape of those options? So feel free to go where you need to go or want to go, but those are kind of some of the general things that we might engage with. So we've got 10 minutes. We've got a bit of time, and then I'll bring us together at the end. If you don't have a table, guys at the back, just swivel maybe to the people at the back and connect. Yeah. All right, everybody. If we can wrap up the conversations, if you can. Pardon? I started this. Sorry. Yeah, we had some great conversations. Don't be sorry. Sorry, I won't be sorry. We had some great conversations around our table. What are you eating? You're sneaky. Yeah. Okay. I know it's really hard. It's such a big topic to kind of cover that in 20 minutes with 10 minutes discussion and 10 minutes talking. But it's a start. There's some pretty good movies out there if you want to watch stuff. So if you haven't watched the Gandhi movies, anybody watch that? It's an excellent movie in terms of non-violence and that. But if you want to contrast, watch the new Bonhoeffer movie. Right, that's out. So, and Bonhoeffer's struggle with being a pacifist, being under Hitler, and then being involved in the plot to overthrow Hitler. So there's different ways that we can kind of take it forward. Go for it. Yep, Andrew.
I'll put an ad.
An ad, Andrew. Yep.
I'll say that there's immediate conflict of interest here.
Conflict of interest. I'm just repeating. Yep.
My nephew-in-law
Yep.
is a documentary maker, and he made a film, Can Art Stop a Bullet?
Can art stop?
A bullet.
A bullet. Yep.
And it got a popular run in
Wow.
cinemas. So it's not, like, this is a guy who's been nominated for an Academy Award. So
Yeah, right.
but it's a really interesting view following the peace movement. Like, for example, your good friend Martin Sheen was on it.
Oh, cool.
And
Yeah, yeah.
things like that. But it's a really interesting thing about art and pacifism.
Great. So online, art and pacifism, can art stop a bullet, Andrew's nephew. So where can we watch that?
Well, it's a couple of years old, but I'm sure if you Google it, you can access it.
Google it and find it that way. Awesome. All right, we're going to do communion now. So I think, Bob, you're up next.
Oh, yeah, that's one. So. Welcome to this celebration of our faith journey. Apparently, we're celebrating Palm Sunday twice. By sharing this communion meal together. So, it's Palm Sunday. Over the years, I've been part of our church community. We've recognised the story from the Bible of Palm Sunday and Jesus' journey into Jerusalem. During the time I was the Sunday school supervisor, which gives you an idea why there's a lot of kids don't come to church, we often had a play sharing the stories, sometimes in different ways, the memories of which has made me think, what if this story was happening now and Jesus is coming today? Jesus is on his way to Melbourne. So he sends his disciples to the CBD, saying, "Go and find transport for me to ride." You will see a large train station with many small vehicles outside. Motorbikes, push bikes, e-bikes or e-scooters. Find me a push bike. If the owner challenges you to why you are taking it, say, "The Lord needs it." So they went and did it as Jesus asked. On finding a push bike, they unlocked it to bring to him. They were challenged by the owner. "Why are you taking my bike?" They replied, "The Lord needs it." The disciples brought it to Jesus, decorated it, and as he rode to where he planned, and all the people cheered him. We have no Mount of Olives in Melbourne, but we do have sacred places. St Paul's, St Patrick's and other churches, the Shrine, and to some, the MCG. If Jesus came today, would we be ready? Would the authorities be judgmental of Jesus and treat him as they did in Jerusalem? We are lucky to have known what the whole story is of his love, his last meal, his crucifixion and death, him rising from death, him talking to his disciples, and other stories he told of God's love. Most of all, we know these stories because people who loved and believed in Jesus passed on the stories. It is our responsibility to continue passing on stories of God's love, his forgiveness for what we do wrongly, particularly God's love for us and all peoples who believe in him. On the night Jesus shared his last meal, and when he broke bread, and when he had given thanks, he said, "This is my body that is for you. Do this in remembrance of me." In the same way, he took a cup after supper, saying, "This cup is the new covenant in my blood. Do this as often as you drink it, in remembrance of me. Whenever you eat this bread and drink this cup, you proclaim the Lord's death until he comes." Lord God, we give thanks for your love and tolerance. We give thanks for your love and your forgiveness. We give thanks for your Son Jesus, who guides us and keeps our heart full of love for others. Amen.
Everything occurs within context in this life, and unfortunately for the people who've been at what used to be Surrey Hills for a long period of time, we can't read a reading that has a donkey involved in it without our minds being drawn back to that Sunday where Tim Adam organised for a donkey to be a part of the church service. It was actually the Christmas service, and Mary was going to ride in on a donkey. It was quite a statement, made all the more memorable by virtue of the fact that the donkey had got into the plum orchard the night before. Managed to distribute the contents of the plum orchard on the floor of the church, which very hard for us. All of those texts are now ruined for us completely. How are you going to do prayer now? It's going to be difficult, isn't it? Yeah, it's going to be difficult now. What I thought we'd do the pastoral prayer this morning is something pretty simple and aligned with a little bit of where we're going. I'm not sure what your life's been like this week. Not sure what your life's been like this week, but there's a sense for me this week. I've felt overwhelmed by what's happening in the world, and I'm guessing many of us sat and watched that Liberation Day speech on Tuesday morning in utter disbelief. And there's this sense for me, across the course of life, there's been a range of, I was born in the 60s, early 60s, on the end of the baby boomers. I'm the last one, 61. Me and Rosemary were the ones that snuck in. And there's been a range of cataclysmic events across the journey, but there always has been this sense that life will return to normal. And for the first time, I guess, in my memory, I watched that on Tuesday morning and thought, life may not return to normal. Now, that may not be a terrible thing, that might be a good thing, but yeah, this feels out of control to me. And so what I wanted us to do this morning in the context of non-violence is, rather than being swept away by that, what I'm going to ask us to do, just sit quietly for 5 deep breaths. And then I want you to just be aware of yourself and your space, as John did at the start. But this time I'd like you to draw someone else to mind, someone in the context of your life, someone who might be there in the shadows of your thinking, someone you're in conflict with, someone you're close to, someone, And then let's just spend a moment trying to identify one thing we'd like to do this week that would add to the value of that person's life. For I know I can't change what Donald Trump will do in the week ahead, but I know I can do at least some things for people on the planet. So let's just take 5 gentle breaths to centre ourselves. And just become aware of perhaps someone who has been on your mind. And bring that person into focus in your head. And now be aware of that sense that is within you as to how you might respond to that other. A sense not put upon you from the outside, but a sense that rises up from your own respect for other humans, respect for this person, sense of justice, sense of what you feel is to do is right. Just allow that moment to be clear for you. And perhaps now, just in this quietness, make a commitment to yourself to honour that sense that you've identified, that sense which has come from deep within yourself. To honour that sense this week. Amen.
And here it is again, the news with Rosemary, for who knows why. Anyway, it's lovely to have the newly minted grandparents and great-granddad with us, so congratulations. And we've started, I don't know, hands up who reads the Well. You may have noticed we're starting the, do you read it? My goodness. Movie and lunch groups. So the movie, Rob and I will be at the Ball and Cinema for the 2:45 session of Black Bag, which is a non-chase thriller spy thing. Apparently, someone I was listening to reviewed it was very disappointed because there was no grand chase in it. So I thought, anyway. So we'll be there on Tuesday at 2:45 to see that. And if other people want to come and join us, that'd be lovely. We'll probably have coffee afterwards. The next Progressive Christian Network Victoria event is on the 27th of April. That's the week after Easter. And that's the day that Jenny Rose will be speaking also at the 10 o'clock service. Again, we'll be having a lunch, and we won't start the PCMV until 1:30 to give us a little bit more time for lunch, and so we're not sort of, yeah. And it was an interesting experience, that last one. We've learned a lot, so yeah. Anyone got anything else that should be brought to the attention of the...
I'm slack, Rosemary. I don't read well, and I don't think I've touched email since about January. But anyone who is interested in making little Easter nesty things with little eggs and little chicken...
Do you want to come up here and speak into the microphone? That would probably be better.
People there. I can go louder. I don't actually need a microphone.
To the people at home, you do.
Oh, the online people. Okay.
Yeah.
Anyone who wants to, I don't know, stay after church next Sunday or Good Friday, I don't really care, and make little Easter nests. I did go and buy a whole bunch of little chickens after Easter last year, so they're in the cupboard. I did. I waited till 3 weeks after Easter, thought it was discounted, man. But the little chickeny things to go in the nest. But anyone who wants to do that, I don't know, talk to me, text me, let me know, and just so I can have enough stuff. And I don't care if it's after church next Sunday or Good Friday, which has tended to always be my tradition. Go over to a friend's place and make little chickeny nesty things. But yeah, if you're into that, talk to me.
Thank you. Anything else? No?
So one thing, the next quiet day is on July the 26th. So put it in your diary, July 26th, and it'll probably be at Hartwell as well. Well, sorry, at Highfield Road. So I'm finishing this service confused, which is not a bad thing, but I think my approach, my attitude to non-violence has shifted, and I'm not quite sure what it's shifted to, but I'm working on that. Which means that probably the words I'm going to finish with today, I'm not sure whether if I had my time again, maybe I wouldn't finish with them, but I'm going to do it anyway. So these are some closing words from Adam Bucko, and then we're going to have a closing song which will be our benediction. Adam Bucko, this is what he says. Jesus was clear. Love always. Bless those who persecute you. Forgive even the unforgivable. Turn the other cheek, not in surrender, but in defiance of violence. Do not repay evil with evil, but overcome evil with good. This may not change the world, but sometimes it is important to do the things simply because they are the right thing to do. In the end, all we have is our integrity. So let us stand in it grounded in the one who renews us each moment and calls us to a non-violent witness of love, one that is big enough to hold both our friends and our oppressors, knowing that love endures beyond violence. Amen.